Oh, yeah.
Jim's Zen over there. I like it.
Who were you when you were lost?
Failure and desperation got me here. I retired and bought a boat. I had a lot of time and a lot of money. That's when I learned the world is controlled by something I call evil. Fear is the ultimate control mechanism of our adversary.
What do you think the solution is?
Faith and courage is the armor of God. Stewardship and service are the tactics. When you are forced to pay the product of your labor, your creativity, and your value, that is the very definition of slavery. I'm responsible for every single thing in my life.
What are you afraid of losing now that you have it?
As soon as we have attachment, then we are slaves to that which we are attached to. Start creating the vision that you want to see for yourself and in the world.
What is your definition of freedom?
All right, here we go.
Ooh, it's got a little Christmas to it.
Okay. All right.
All right, here we go.
All right, Mike. All right. Oh, yeah. All right.
Look at him. All right. Ready? Welcome to Cold Tub Talks. Today we're here in sunny Florida with Jim Gale. We are so appreciative to be here. I am pumped. I'm like a kid in the candy store to be on this amazing 50-acre property, what this guy's doing with this land. Jim, if you wouldn't mind telling us why people should know more about you. Introduce yourself, if you will.
My name is James Patrick Gale. They call me Jim, or Nature Boy. And I find it a very curious thing that the word James means to defeat, overthrow, or supplant, right? The word Patrick means noble, and the word Gale means strong wind. And a buddy told me that the other day.
What does my name mean?
Yeah, right? And he said, Jim, your name says it all. He said, you are here to be a strong wind for change, to light the fire of freedom and then blow that fire. And by the way, we are not our names. Our names are fiction, right? It's all in fiction, right? We are this living energy field. The name, so anybody who's got a name that you might not like, you can change it.
Totally.
Really, I want to share more about what the message is, right? I'm a speaker of the message. I'm in a way, my goal is to be irrelevant here. I do not want to be famous because that's a pain in the ass. And I am very excited to share a message, though, that is inspiring and that is literally and demonstratably the solution to cancer and diabetes and heart disease. I'm talking about the literal, demonstrable, proven scientific cure for cancer and diabetes and heart disease trends, for Alzheimer's trends, for depression, for suicide, for all of the major ailments that we can name right now that are plaguing our world. And it's a combination of stewardship and service with faith and courage. And when I say faith, a lot of people click out because they think of religion immediately, and some of them have been taught to hate that whole narrative. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an energy field. What happens when you relax into faith? Right? The actual act of relaxing, which is a type of faith, opens up your neural pathways. It helps us actually think more clearly.
Yeah.
It also is the opposite, and the healing chemicals in our body that allow us to heal, right? This idea that stress, and by the way, there's more stress in our world now than ever before, right? And that's reflected in, you walk into a school and you see the kids, you see the weight and the stress, and you ask them, how do you like school? Not so much, right? So the act of the frequency of faith is a powerful frequency. And then the idea of stewardship and service,
Love that phrase now.
When we practice caring for our earth and our friends, the act of caring for people and this earth is also healing. And that's also been proven all over the world for generations and eons, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. What a start.
Yeah.
Love your passion, man. It's invigorating. And to push back on you a little bit, before the food forests, before the language of freedom and abundance, who were you when you were lost? Before you really opened up to this amazing idea and how you can make a change?
Yeah. You know, a lot of people ask questions like that. Like, in other words, what got you here?
Sure.
Failure and desperation got me here. For sure. So, you know, I heard some gurus, some guys saying that, you know, when you win, you party, and when you lose, you ponder.
Okay.
Well, I had a winning streak. I had a losing streak in high school where I was supposed to win the state tournament my junior year. And I wrestled a guy named Jerry Martin, who was born Christmas Eve on 1969, same date as me. And I had wrestled him 5 times, and I had beat him every time, including 2 weeks previous. State finals, he beat me.
Okay.
Because I was scared to lose, because I was worried for egoic reasons and pride and all those things. Then I went into 3 years of losing, and I pondered a lot. And I started reaching out and looking for answers. And that's when I found Dennis Waitley. Dennis Waitley was an Olympic coach, and he wrote a series called The Psychology of Winning. And it was the first time in my life where I was exposed to this type of knowledge. And it changed my life radically.
Wow.
Right. So then I wrote my goals. And then the next 4 years, in fact, I was a red-shirted freshman in college, and they had an election for team captain. And I was a freshman in the NCAA's, D2. And I was elected captain of the team as a freshman. And then I ended up becoming a 4-time All-American and national champion, inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then I really felt proud of myself. I felt I was pretty cool. And then I, after college, moved to Hawaii, and I started as a bar back. Within 2 weeks, I was managing a bar because I worked my ass off. And then the bar, they asked me to be an owner in the bar restaurant because it was failing. And I became an owner. I spent my life savings to become an owner. And I had a lot of fun. Best investment I ever made. I lost every penny. But I learned a lot. And then I went through that series of failures again. And then I decided it's time to get out of the bar business. It's time to start traveling. And so I moved to Surfers Paradise, Australia, got a job in the bar business again. And I studied. I went to Bond University every day, and I researched the most successful people in the world. And I wrote my goals again, 10 years later. And over the next 4 years, I started a company that did $1.3 billion in revenue. And I retired and bought a boat and lived on the ocean for a year.
Wow.
And-
What age were you at this point?
I was 35, 6 when I retired from the mortgage business. And bought a boat, started a foundation called the Wisdom Foundation. The goal was to get emotional intelligence and the things that I had learned through these great teachers taught in every school in the country. And I started speaking at schools, and I started bumping up against the paradigm, the belief system, and the trauma that leads our indoctrination system called school. It's amazing what a breath can do.
It is.
And so I moved to Costa Rica, and I had a lot of time and a lot of money. And it was 2007. And that's when I learned that the world is controlled by something that, for lack of a better term, I call evil. It's the opposite of live, right? It's live backwards. Like the devil
I've
Yeah.
never
seen that.
lived,
Yeah.
it's backwards. Somehow that's relevant.
That's
and I don't
trippy.
know how. Isn't that trippy?
I've not heard that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
No.
Could you elaborate more on that? Like, what did you
Well,
find on stuff?
I just know that all words are spells. And that's what spelling is. It's casting. Spell casting is casting a vision. Thought, word, deed, right? You think something, and a lot of times that thought comes from a program. Then you speak it, and our words have vibration. Words matter. They literally turn into matter. Thought, word, deed. So you start with the thought, then you speak it, and then you manifest it.
What did that season of your life feel like internally? Because I can feel something behind your voice, but what was it like?
That's interesting. That's a good question. So it was stressful because when you study the problem, when you go deep into the problem, and I had time and money. So when I saw Building 7 fall at virtually free fall speed into its own footprint, that was it for me. I knew that was controlled demolition. And I had had my first two daughters. You know, the key to a cold tub is breath.
You're killing it. I do see it sends a little shiver. Am I
When you're
right?
talking too much, I'm not breathing as much.
Hmm.
The key to everything for me is breath, actually. Breath, I'm always one breath away from presence. So I studied the problem obsessively for years. And then I read Bill Mollison's quote. He's the father of permaculture. Though the problems of our world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. And I started to bawl. And from that day forward, I decided to focus on the solutions with every bit of my being. I still am aware of the problems. I still study the problems, maybe a little too much, but my focus is now going more and more on demonstrating the solutions.
Damn.
Of all your years so far, what do you think the solution is?
Faith and courage is the armor of what I call God. Stewardship and service. Faith and courage is the strategy of this war that we are in, or this game. I like to think of it as a game. Stewardship and service are the tactics.
No, it makes a lot of sense. What can the people at home focus more on to escape and have more freedom in their lives?
Service and stewardship. Grow food, plant seeds. Seeds are plants, and they're also ideas. Spread awareness of the possibility. The seed of inspiration is the most powerful seed of all. Stronger than any other seed in the world. To be inspirited, which leads to enthusiasm or enthusiasm. And that's an energy field that is expansive.
I feel moved right now.
Yeah.
Like the way you carry those words, like there's a weight to it. And I think that's why we wanted to ask about your past. And although you are about stewardship and there was a slight deflection, I knew there was such power behind your message and your voice. And it's great to hear more of that background.
Yeah, it's incredible. One final thing before we get out here. What do you feel people should stay more away from in today's world?
Stress and fear. Fear is the ultimate control mechanism of our adversary, right? And I use the word God because I grew up in Minnesota, and that's the language that I have learned to point to source, to point to the omnipresent, omnipotent energy field that is the foundation of all life and everything. And so fear takes us out of the present and into scarcity of love, scarcity of courage, scarcity of all of the things that bring us energy. And fear is also very scientific that it stops the production of healing chemicals in our body. Whereas service and stewardship release those chemicals. So it's not only spiritual and religious, it's also scientific.
It would make sense. You probably are releasing more endorphins when you're doing the good things and probably releasing more cortisol and other things in your body when
100%.
you're doing the bad things.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's a great message. Do more good things. That's what people need to take away.
All right. Shall we transition?
That was
That was
great.
awesome, man.
Yeah, that was
What a
awesome.
start.
I think he's my favorite person that breathed through the cold tub. That's the way he owned that. Every moment you needed to take a breath, you took a freaking breath.
Quick shout out to the Pod Company, the sponsor for the Cold Tub Talks. I'm sitting here in the Ice Pod Pro, Coach Devin's in the Long Pod, and you can get your discounted cold tub in the description below. Check it out for yourself.
Man, this is like high level fancy schmancy here.
Yeah,
love
look good
it.
in the end. Yeah, that's the goal.
I love it. Look at you go.
Yeah, the original series started in his garage, and it was nowhere near this.
No.
Wow.
It was a much lower level tier. I think there was, two cameras we only had, and production was
Well,
nowhere
if we're
near
gonna
as
have
good
good
as
quality interviews with a good message, might as well have good,
Yeah, I
a good
guess.
setup, right?
Fantastic.
Ready? All right. We are back. We breathed it out in the tubs, and we are feeling on top of the world, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, we're feeling good. We're
Yes.
feeling good. Out in sunny Florida, can't beat it.
No.
All right, Jim, I got to know, when people hear you use terms like slave tax or rejecting the system, some people see courage, other people see like it's extremism. Is there anything that people say that actually gets under your skin?
If it does, then I check myself. Because if something gets under my skin, that's my problem. And I don't want to be controlled by anybody. That is, Goethe said, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. Right? And so I contemplate that quite a bit. So the only person that can get under my skin once in a while, well, this one can once in a while. But my wife still has the ability to trigger me, but less so than 6 months ago and way less so than 10 years ago. Right. And so the more we take 100% responsibility for our own energy, our own reactions, our own emotions, the more free we truly are.
So take accountability within yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
How great that sounds right there.
Yeah.
Wow. More people did just that. Just that alone.
Yep.
Took more accountability. How many more times than not do you see people doing the opposite? They're pointing the finger.
Exactly. Yeah, that means every time we point the finger, we are giving our ability to respond, our responsibility away. We are saying that my life is controlled by them. We are literally a slave to that person. And I'm not going to be a slave to anybody to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I love that. We're the same way. You take accountability in yourself.
100%.
There's a lot of outside circumstances that you can blame on things, but at the end of the day, you look at your reflection and say, hey, this was kind of my fault. I could have done things better or did something a little different to get the outcome maybe I was looking for.
There you go.
You grow. You get to grow.
Yeah.
Full responsibility. I'm responsible for every single thing in my life. At some level of this beingness, I have and claim responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and you're doing great things with it. That's why you're here today.
Yeah, for real. I mean, you've done some incredible things, so I'm excited to learn that along the way.
So if someone said to you, this is inspiring, but it feels somewhat unrealistic for my life, what belief would you say that they need to change first?
So where a lot of people start, everybody starts from where they are.
Sure.
And when I started learning this stuff, I had a lot of resources. But then as I went into the problem, I started investing in the solution. And over time, I kept failing and failing and failing because I didn't really get the problem. And so I was putting my energy towards what I thought was the solution, but it wasn't. But it was a step along the way. So start wherever you are, right? I ended up being dead broke. 6 years ago in 2000, I started a company. I actually had to borrow against this lot that we're on now, before the house is on it. I borrowed some money to start a kiosk at a local mall. The goal was to get living kiosks in malls all over the place to demonstrate the solutions that we're proving here. And it was November 1st, 2019 when we opened. And within 4 or 5 months, everything was shut down because of the COVID government narrative, right? And so I was broke, I was scared, and we had bills to pay, we had no income in the family, and I was super scared. And I went on a walk and I started basically kind of meditating and praying. For me, praying isn't begging God for, money or any particular thing. For me, praying is setting an intention and then listening, right? A lot of people pray where they're speaking outward. I pray by intending and then listening inward. And I went for this walk, and all of a sudden, all this string of awarenesses came to my mind, and it's like a light bulb went on. I got home, and I said to my wife, let's sit for a second. I feel like something just happened. A shift just happened, a profound shift. And we sat, and within 10 minutes, we had figured out where to get the money for the next 6 months of living expenses. And that is what gave me the time and the energy to create kind of this foundation that we are now living.
Yeah, which is badass to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. What is the land we're on right now? Like, if you wanted to explain real quick.
So we call it Galt's Landing after John Galt from Atlas Shrugged, right? My partner, Brian, who lives right on the other side of the fence there, his dad gave him and his brother Atlas Shrugged when they were like 16, 17 years old. It's about the power of perseverance and the individual and creativity and all sorts of powerful things. And it's about how the government looters come in and try to suck the energy out of society. It's like a parasite. Governmente, which means control of the mind, is a parasite. It's an extractive system that is meant to suck energy out and put it in the hands of a few, right? Well, look where we are. That's exactly what's happened. So anyway, we had this idea to get a piece of land with at least 20 acres that had a lake and the ability to have a runway. And so, because he's a pilot, right? So we started putting the word out, and I made it my job because I was broke at this time. I owned the lot, but I didn't have any money. Just enough to pay the basic bills and get credit cards and pay the basic bills. So I started telling realtors and developers, I said, this is what we're looking for. And I literally had multiple people say, well, good luck. That doesn't exist around here. And then I got a call one day. A guy said, Jim, I can't believe it, but something came up that you might be interested in. And it's this 51 acres on a private 430-acre lake. So we've got the only docks on this 430-acre lake.
Sick.
Isn't it? And then there's a mile-long paved runway right there on the other side of that fence. So we have a gate so world leaders can fly in their jets and park their jets here to learn about freedom, have conferences. And we are in a demonstration site completely off the grid. Right? I think you guys already know we have very publicly declared that we are free. We have never paid taxes on this land, right? We do not pay taxes on land or labor because you cannot have freedom when the very nature of our system is coercive and based in force and violence. It's slavery. when you are forced to pay some of the product of your labor, your creativity, and your value to an entity that is using it to enslave you and create wars around the world and monopolies, that is the very definition of slavery. So we're here at Galt's Landing to demonstrate freedom and stand with faith and courage. And then the tactic that I mentioned earlier of service and stewardship is so epically powerful, because right now we are working with the transition house and with the local schools and with the local pastors and with the local Rotary Club. And we are offering service by the way of, here are some plant starts so you can grow your own food. By the way of, here's some knowledge so you can create a local security network. Right? In fact, we just heard we have a gun range at the south end of our property, and Chris Allison was just teaching people how to secure themselves. Right? He was the former security team leader at the Pentagon for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Right? And now he's here teaching people. And so that's what we're all about, is bringing together the community and creating abundance and security locally, and then showing how to do that so it can scale.
You've put time into your career and life. Now it's time for your body to reflect the same standard. At InstaShred, we help busy men through bespoke online fitness to improve their appearance, performance, and health. To get started, just click the link below in the description at instashred.com and book your free call.
Walk us through how you structure your week now between vision and land management. Where does your time actually go?
So that is one of the most profound questions and answers, because the answer is presence. I have no structure. I don't have any idea what's going to happen next. Yes, I do have a schedule and I do put things in there, but most of my days are wide open. And I set an intention, and then I just silence my mind. I don't silence it. I become the observer of the thoughts and not the thoughts themselves. So I just sit and relax, and then all of a sudden an idea will come. And I can tell if it's a good idea or a bad idea based on the energy that comes with it. And then sometimes I get ideas that are so shockingly energized, I have to jump up and go run to the phone, which I usually keep away from me now, and go call somebody or send a message.
Yeah. That's so cool. Once again, the opposite of what most would think.
Yeah.
People are so, it almost sounds like business in a way. There's so many ways to run a business, but you can be super structured and regimented, or you can be like, hey, every day I'm going to take what comes to me and act on that.
Yeah, presence is the key. Presence is truth. Presence is full awareness. And then, so there's AI and there's GI, right? AI is artificial intelligence and GI is God's intelligence, right? Well, it's all in the mind of God somehow, but I know for certain, based on my experience, that when you are present, setting an intention, a desire, then GI is the ultimate database of all information. So when you set an intention and you just sit in presence and listen, then all of a sudden, the answers will come. And we'll share some of those today, right here.
So what are some of the non-negotiables in your day? What that keep you grounded mentally, physically, spiritually?
The non-negotiables. I am very stingy with my awareness. And if somebody is trying to take my awareness, my attention, and put it onto something that isn't of interest to me, I very quickly check out. And as soon as I check out, I make the person aware that I'm checking out, because I respect the person.
That's very respectful.
Yeah. I say, hey, just so you know, I can't pay attention to this conversation about somebody I don't know's uncle. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's no value in that for me. Right. So then I say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't converse about that. And a lot of people will sit and listen, even though their insides are screaming, help, 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 get me out of here. Right. I won't. And I don't think anybody should. Just do it respectfully, and they'll know because they have the same experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Do you use a daily calendar, how you were saying GI, like God's intelligence? Do you just kind of listen to what you should be doing each day?
Yes, each second, each moment, Yeah. In fact, you can hear the sounds of freedom going on
That's
right now.
badass, man.
So yeah, each instant, can you feel it? There's a frequency right here. You can hear it. In fact, a lot of people now, they're tinnitus. A lot of people have heard of tinnitus. Tinnitus is, in my experience, I hear it super loud all the time. And I not only hear it, I can feel it. It's like this frequency. And instead of labeling that and judging it and saying, oh, it sucks, I hate it. And a lot of these are programs that are programmed by pharmakia, which means sorcery, right? This pharmakia system wants us to label and judge all of our feelings. And then they want to prescribe us some for patent derived from nature, but synthesized chemical to help mask the symptom. Well, the symptom is the message, right? So instead of masking it, I go into it. Like tinnitus, anybody out there who's listening, if you have tinnitus, go into it. Don't run from it. Don't judge it. Don't label it. Take a breath and sit with it, and then ask it to expand. Ask it to get louder. Ask to feel it even more deeply. And then ask it questions and play with it. And check out the colors, right? This is neurolinguistics. Sometimes when I go into this frequency, I see this orange-red vibration, and I might be feeling a little bit stressed or hyper or whatever. I'll take a breath and I'll say, I want to turn that vibration blue, right? And all of a sudden I go, oh, that blue is really relaxing, right? So you can play with it, and it becomes quite a fun game, actually.
Yeah.
Have you done that with other things? ADHD, other common?
Yeah, they're all labels. They're all BS, right? They're bad science, right? Created by the corporations that programs belief systems, and it's all bullshit. It's all BS.
Yeah. I mean, I could totally see it. Taking a step back to what you were saying when you were hearing the guns firing and said it sounds like freedom. What is your definition of freedom? Because in today's world, a lot of people just see freedom as I have a house, or I got a good job, I make money, I can travel and do some things. What is your definition of freedom?
Well, it was about 18 years ago, when a guy said, Jim, you're a slave. And my first reaction to that was I was annoyed. And I got kind of angry. I said, I'm not a slave. I could do anything I want. Oh, really? Well, what happens if you make $100,000? Do you get to keep it and do what you want with it? And I instantly knew that I was a slave. And at that moment, I declared that I'm not going to be a slave anymore. And since that day, 18 years ago, I have never paid taxes on my labor. And I've been on 800 or 900 podcasts saying I've never paid taxes. I've been on hundreds of podcasts saying that we don't pay taxes on this land, right? Because this is earth. This isn't, the government doesn't own this earth. They have deceived us for us to believe, right? All beliefs, by the way, are filters for truth, for reality. Every single belief system, every judgment, every value that we hold is a filter. So like, let's say I have a belief that Mother Teresa was a saint and the best person in the world, right? Well, if somebody comes up and tells me, actually, did you know this woman was involved in these types of bad things? Belief systems will filter out that. I won't even be able to hear it, or I'll completely ignore it. And that's why, like the word or term conspiracy theory, this is a programmed psyop that was programmed by the CIA back, I think it was after Kennedy got shot, right? And they started talking about conspiracy theorists in a shameful or humiliating or skeptical light, right? So they program the idea that conspiracy theorists are idiots. And then they say it over and over and over again. When now we look back on the conspiracies, and a lot of them are absolutely true.
So true. Yeah, there's a lot of things they found out in the past.
Yeah, man. So you're speaking a lot about freedom and abundance. How much of an impact has it made on your life? Are you a lot happier therefore?
It's the difference. It's the complete difference. Presence and freedom from my belief systems in the past, my judgments, my values, my shame, my humiliation, my trauma. Everybody has had trauma. Everybody has PTSD.
Absolutely.
It's fundamental in this world somehow. And we're here to overcome that, right? In fact, trauma is the root cause of all human suffering. And the vast majority of trauma is essentially governmente induced. So yes, I do feel quite free. And I've also noticed that I feel more free the more I go into the land, the more I serve, the more I sit in presence, the freer I am.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What are you afraid of losing now that you have this life that you've built that you have?
So there is nothing to fear, but fear itself is very, very powerful. So when I catch myself attaching to something, and then that attachment creates the fear of loss, as soon as we have attachment, then we are slaves to that which we are attached to. And that slave is bound by fear. The chains of slavery are fear. The ultimate chain is fear. And so what do? We cut the chain. We let go of the attachment. We let go of the fear. And we sit in presence with faith and courage, knowing that this is a temporary skin suit, right? We are not this. This is like an avatar or a temporary situation. And so what are we? We're way infinitely more than this. We are eternal at some level of our awareness, of our consciousness, of our spiritual being. And to know that and to sit in that is really powerful.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I'm curious to know, for most people, they can't just get up and move to 50 acres of land, but what advice would you give people within the next 30 days, how they could take back control of their life?
When we found this land, I had debt, I had no money, and I had no job. So who are most people that can't do this?
Nobody.
There you go.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do that. How? Thought, word, deed. So you start by creating a vision, cultivating a vision, nurturing a vision inside of you that compels and inspires you, right? You start with the vision. And then the more you talk about it, the more those words, that vibration goes out into this universe of creativity, and all of a sudden it turns to matter, right? And it actually does. I was going to say it takes time, but it doesn't take time. It takes levels of awareness, and time is an illusion. So start creating the vision that you want to see for yourself and in the world, and then start sharing the vision with everybody, right? Visualize that you're already in the seat, that you're already in the vision, and then start sharing it. Like the next vision for us is we're going to create right behind us here a 3-layer colloidal silver
Wait
pool.
till you hear this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. This pool is, so we've got this statue on the front. My mom had this in the family for decades, and we're going to create a water feature. And at the base, it's going to be sand and some shells and some charcoal with silver. I've got a lot of silver dimes and old silver pennies. And we're going to put silver in there and copper in there, and have copper piping, and we're going to create a colloidal silver, colloidal copper living pool. We're going to have our solar panels that help cycle the water down, and it's going to go first into a jacuzzi tub at the top. I love those massage jacuzzi tubs.
Yeah.
And then it's going to have a small waterfall to a pool, and then it's going to have like a 3-foot waterfall with a structuring system, which water needs to be structured to be alive. And it's going to go into a living pond. And the pond will have plant filters, so to be alive with fish in it and everything. And
all right here.
All right behind me here, right? Now, do we have the cash to do that right now? No, we don't. But will we? Absolutely. and we're going to get it done with a network of friends and people that do it. And then we're going to put it on film and we're going to show people how they can do the same thing for a fraction of the price that a standard pool costs. And then the byproduct, the water that comes out of the pool, will be full of colloidal silver and copper and minerals. And we'll use that to feed our food forest.
Wow. That's
That's
freaking cool.
man.
'Cause
I
why
cannot
not?
wait to see that.
Yeah, me
just
too.
that visually will be crazy.
Me too.
Yeah, that's really cool. How much exposure have you got from this place of making changes in the world or having the impact that you're looking for?
Millions of people are now aware of what we are doing here. And so we've gotten a lot of exposure. 2.5 years ago, I was in the food forest in the political campaign, which was starting to ramp up. And so all of a sudden I'm like, how can we kind of hijack that energy system? Right? That political energy, which is billions of dollars are spent on these political campaigns. Like when you take all the money that's spent, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How can we kind of hijack that energy and supplant that insanity with something more beneficial? And all of a sudden, this series of ideas came. I got up and I started writing them down. I started sharing them with people. And then I thought were deed. I spoke them. Next thing you know, I'm sitting down with Bobby Kennedy. And this is 2.5 years ago, way before he even talked about Maha. And I said, Bobby, the campaign strategy that I'm laying out for you here will not only win you a fair election, if it were fair, we know it's not, but the campaign itself will change the world. And he looked at me like, really? Well, let's see it. All right. So I laid it out. The first campaign talking point is we are going to take the poisons out of our schools and our children will heal. And as a picture of Bobby at a school surrounded by kids putting seeds in the ground and planting fruit trees and cultivating and stewarding the land. And then while they're doing that, he gives an hour-long presentation on what it would mean if every school in this great country adopted stewardship and regenerative agriculture practices at school. Well, what that would mean is every school would become a nursery. The students would realize how to create abundance in our world, and then they would be able to take those seeds and those plants back into their backyards and turn their backyards into food forests. And pretty soon we've got this ideal of the Garden of Eden everywhere.
And if you will, just sidebar real quick, share what you have on property with the school.
Yes. So we decided to just do it. So now my daughter, Sophie, when it's warmer out, she goes to school barefoot and she comes home barefoot. Just an hour ago or two, she said, Dada, when does school start again? Because today is Saturday, right? I said, it's in 2 days, kiddo. And she goes, aw. Now,
wow.
I didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for the weekend. Now it's Saturday morning and she can't wait for school, right? So we have a school model. In fact, this is the tip of the spear. This is the ultimate strategy that I'm aware of, right? Besides mass adoption of enlightenment, right? Lightmente, which is the opposite of governmente.
Dang.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the students teaching them. And so basically what we've done is created a homeschool model. And this is so profound, it's absolutely nuts. In Florida and in multiple other states, the money follows the student. So we now get the money from the state, 10 grand a year per kid, right? So if you could start a homeschool where you get 10 of your neighbor's kids and you get $100,000, you hire a full-time teacher to handle all the details, and then the students, as part of their curriculum, go out into a park or into your yards and they start creating food production systems in your yards. And then what do they do with the surplus? They can sell or barter or trade it or whatever. So now you've got a school that the children heal. The school teaches the most important thing in the world, and that's how to create abundance everywhere and self-reliance, and it's entrepreneurship. So it stacks regenerative agriculture with entrepreneurship in a way where everybody wins exponentially.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
epic.
that's really cool. I mean, in our backyard, my fiance loves gardening and starting. We have 8 planter beds in the backyard, and then our daughter got really into helping her water it, take care of the garden. If someone's just starting, what kind of plants should they start with? I know it may vary state to state of where they're at, but what would be some basics you would say would be the foundations of starting?
Start with whatever you like to eat and start with easy things.
Sweet potato.
Yeah. For me, and again, here come the sounds of freedom, right? For me, I think one of the most important plants in the world is sweet potatoes.
Oh, I
love
nailed
sweet
it.
potatoes.
Give me some. Let's go.
And
I
it's
love sweet potatoes.
for multiple reasons,
You
right?
guys got the best ones on this property.
Oh gosh,
Those
yeah.
purple sweet potatoes, man.
Thousands and thousands of pounds at times, like most of the year. In fact, for the last 3 years, we've had a radical abundance of sweet potatoes. And in fact, we just had a big, huge freeze. So now all the sweet potato leaves have been frozen off. But within another 3 months, those leaves will be exploding. There'll be sweet potatoes everywhere. And what we do is you could take a vine of sweet potatoes that long and you could rip it off the sweet potato, plant it in the ground over here, and now you've got a new sweet potato plant. So what we've done now is we've given away thousands of sweet potato starts to our local community. In fact, one day we had a pastor come here, Pastor Ross, and we shared with him the idea of stewardship, and it blew his mind. A few months later, and we gave him a sweet potato start. And a few months later, he sent me pictures. He goes, Jim, I'm going to do a sermon at the church about growing food and stewardship. Next thing you know, he does a sermon, and Chris and I go to his church with Chris's truck, and the back is loaded with sweet potatoes and vines. That day, 100 new families started growing food at home thanks to that one event.
Dude, it makes me think of your one well-known video of the 5-gallon bucket method.
Yeah.
You shared it so simply, like, hey, all of you can grow sweet potatoes in a 5-gallon bucket no matter
Yes.
the temperature, where you live.
Yes. You could do it in your closet. You could do it the side. They're cool plants. The leaves are edible, the stems, and of course the sweet potatoes. And they're so prolific, and they start so easy. So yes, that's one of many, but whatever, if you've got a tiny little counter in a condo and you want to do microgreens or sprouts, start by planting seeds. Go online. The information's all there. It's very, very easy to do. And the plants will not only provide you food, but they will be your teacher and they will nourish your soul.
Wow. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Because I know his wife and my fiance talked about this year. They're going to tag team all of our garden beds because we only did about half of them last year because it was our first time doing it. They're just going to max them out and take care of it. So that'll be really cool and exciting for them to do and see how that goes. So we'll have to keep you updated on that. Is there anything, so with this not paying taxes, do you ever have a fear or a thought in the back of your mind that one day the government's going to come in and try and shut you down or kick you off of the land because you don't pay taxes?
So many interesting things are happening. I got a word not too long ago, about maybe 2 months ago, that there is a tax sale in this area. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's our property, right? So I called this lawyer. I said, hey, can you check out the property? And he said, oh yeah, there's, we did like a title search, and it showed, and there's a lot going on, but they showed that an entity called Mercury Funding LLC paid my property taxes in 2023.
What?
I'm like, oh, Mercury Funding. So I looked them up, and basically, I believe it's like a group of lawyers. I don't know exactly what constitutes this group, but it's a predatory scheme to pay the taxes, and then over time, they're guaranteed interest. Now, this is where the government and the private sector get together to steal your property. So people in the government will call up these entities, or they can look online and say, hey, there's people over here haven't paid. So then they'll pay. They get a guaranteed up to 18 and sometimes even more than 18% interest.
Wow.
Or
What a hack.
they actually get the asset. So what we're doing is we're shining a light on this predatory evil scam, because thousands of elderly folks and families and farmers are now losing their land to these corporate predators. And we're shining a light on it, saying this is radically unjust, and it is meant to deceive and to predate your assets. So now here's the other part that's amazing is I just heard this morning that the House in Florida has passed what they're proposing as new law. And I don't know what stage it's at, but I think it was Congress in Florida or one of the entities, 50 or 80 to 30, no more property taxes in the state of Florida.
I did read something about that.
Yeah.
That they were trying to do it. It'd be like the first state ever to pass that.
Yep. And I've been speaking this for about 5-6 years now, very publicly. DeSantis knows exactly who we are, and it's really amazing that this is all coming here in Florida. I think there's a lot of divine synchronicities coming together right now.
Yeah.
I'm very optimistic about the future.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure you probably have had some movement in that because it sounds like a lot of people here know who you are, what your movement is, and what you stand for. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people back you on that, I'm sure. Oh, gosh, it's amazing. I mean, we've got incredible people all around us now that are saying, Jim, if anything happens, let us know and we'll be there. And what I know, Gandhi, at one point, he said, listen, I'm not against physical war. It's just not the best way to get the job done. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. This idea of using force and violence is the current paradigm. And is it working? No. We've got more war and more suffering in that way than any time in history. The way that Gandhi, civil disobedience, and Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King said, those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. I mean, how relevant is that today? Mm-hmm. So for those who love peace, let's stand together. This idea that the meek shall inherit the earth, the meek and the weak, just because they rhyme, they're very different things. Yeah. The meek are the powerful who sheathe their sword and use peace and good communication and the power within them to stop evil and this wickedness from happening. Wow. I feel like I'm learning so much and taking so much away on this podcast so far.
I knew it would happen this way.
Yeah, awesome, brother.
You're a specimen, Jim.
Just present.
Yeah. No, it's really cool, everything that you stand for and what you've done on here and how it feels like you have the state's backing for what you're doing, at least here, that you don't have a worry that one day someone's going to come and try and just take it all from you or what you've built.
Yeah. Well, you're a true leader, man. You're leading a movement. I mean, I know you're deflecting it off of you, but you are carrying out this path, this mission. You explain it so well that it's so easy for others to follow. Even just being on your property the past month, I'm realizing how much I want to carry forward in my life just because of the message that you carry. Awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, nature is the answer. God's design, faith and courage, and standing. And it's a strategic thing that's going on. So the idea that we're helping, the very public, transparent idea that we are here to serve our community, well, that puts us in a particular way. It's like the insurance policy, because now, because of our service, people want to protect us. Mm-hmm. Right? If we were just sitting here hoarding, in fact, this is a message to all the billionaires out there and all the people who have extra resources. Well, first of all, if you've got a 401k, self-direct that energy, right? The fiat dollar is based in deception and debt. Debt and death are the same thing. And so it's time to convert that fictional energy into the real. So take your energy out of the 401k and start using that energy to grow food and to create abundance in your space. And then sharing that abundance instead of hoarding that abundance, right? To the billionaires who are hiring special forces to protect them and who are building fences and walls and gates. That's not going to work. Right? Here's what will work is take that same amount of energy that you normally would use to hire force and put it into the power of nature and service and stewardship. Because when you become the goose that's laying the golden egg for your community around you, then your community becomes your shield. Your community becomes your protector because you're providing something for them, and then it becomes a voluntary instead of a coercive exchange of value.
Wow. You are that goose for this community, aren't you?
My intention is to serve the community because doing so, it inspires them to serve me back.
Yeah. If your movement succeeds in the way you see it, what is it actually going to change in the world moving forward?
Well, it's hard for a lot of people to conceive and believe this, right? Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve.
Yeah.
He studied the most successful manifestors in the history of the world.
I love Napoleon Hill.
Me too, right?
Yeah.
He also wrote Outwitting the Devil, but he couldn't release it back then because there was too much, it was not politically correct, which is hilarious. But anyway, so if Napoleon Hill, I think he was right? So I also think that we are entering a new age, an age of awareness. And these wars, this struggle that has been the norm for humanity for as long as history tells us. And by the way, his story is a lie written by the winners of the wars, right? History is not true at all. It's a complete fabrication to get us. It's a governmente. It's a mind control fabrication, right? And that's easy to see now. So bottom line though, is that I think we're going into the golden age. I feel like we're going into a golden age where Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When people have their shelter, their food, their water, and they're out of scarcity, then what can they think about? What do they think about? They think about creativity and art and things that create value on levels that we are not really focused on as a global society right now. We're focused on war and scarcity, but it always leads to friction is the catalyst for change, right? So all of this friction that's going on right now is perfect in that it's ushering in this golden age.
I just got to point out, this goes so well with the concept of this podcast, health, fitness, and business. I mean, stewardship, living off the land, entrepreneurship to the level of the kids, as you mentioned earlier. It's incredible.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
It all fits.
No, I love it. I got another one here. If the next generation was to watch this 20 years from now, what would you want them to understand why you chose this path?
I cannot imagine any other path. Based on what I've learned and based on what I'm aware of, no other path makes sense, right? Fear, I've learned, is the ultimate chain. And so I'm saying, no, thank you. And anytime, and I do get waves of fear. Like when a government agent came here about 2.5-3 years ago now, I got word that a government agent was here. And Carlos called me and I had a wave of adrenaline or fear go through my body, that adrenaline response. And I'm like, oh gosh, I've been waiting for this. I stood up, I started walking, and I walked up to the fella. And by the way, I'm going to share a strategy right now with everybody.
All right.
Let's hear it.
Yes. So I turned on my phone because anytime we're talking to any supposed authority, somebody who claims to have authority over us, you want to put that camera right in their face and you want to ask them some questions, right? So I walked up, I turned the camera, I walked up, I said, hello, my name is Jim Gale and I'm recording this conversation. And he said, my name's Alexi. I said, well, it's nice to meet you, Alexi, but how did you get permission to come on my land? Implied consent is not granted and it's posted. And I had a belief system, which again is a filter for truth. It wasn't true. My belief system was he was going to puff up and say, I'm from the government and I have the right to be here. And he was going to assume an authoritative position over me. I don't understand anybody, right? I understand myself. And so my experience was very different than that. Instead, he said, I'm sorry, the gate was open, so I came in, but I will leave if you want me to. And I'm like, oh, shit.
He
He just disarmed me. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I said, well, before you leave, can I show you something? He goes, yeah. I go, well, let me show you the food forest. I want to share with you what we're doing here because we're here to serve. So if we can collaborate and serve our community, great, right? So he said, sure. So we walked into the food forest and he had this little clipboard with a little paper with check marks on it. And I said, we're standing right in the middle. There's birds, butterflies, food, life, beauty all around us. And I said, it is our duty to our posterity and to everything we love about life on earth to be the stewards and protectors of this land. And if we follow your government's practice and process, then we're all dead, as proven by every HOA community that you've worked with. You guys use poisons on a contractual basis, which is killing the water, the air, the soil. I said, go look at it. There's no bees. There's no butterflies. The people are suffering. Everything is suffering. And he got tears in his eyes and he wept. And he said, you're right. I'll never bother you again. And the government has never been back here.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
a powerful message,
yeah.
knowing that you stand for something that can really make a difference in the
Yeah.
world.
And that strategy, it works. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And just the way you were willing to admit how you went into that conversation and your perception of what it might be. I think people do that every single
Yes.
day. They go in with the defense wall expecting something and you never know what's going to come your way. And if you go into a situation open-minded, oh my gosh, how different that outcome could be.
Completely. The last two policy officers that pulled me over when I was speeding, one because of a tail light on a trailer, and the other one was because I was going 6 miles over the speed limit. I was in South Dakota, but I had Minnesota plates.
Okay.
And they were, it was a Red Pill Expo, and they pulled me over because of my plates. And I asked them that. Both of those police officers end up being my good friends afterwards. Yeah. And anyway, long story, but what I learned is to go into every situation as friends. And just with this feeling and the energy of friendship. And you'll quickly learn what that person's intentions are. But when you can stay in this conversation of listening and friendship and stuff, when you can stay in that energy field, there's much more potential for rapport and for change. You cannot get any change unless you first have rapport.
Yes.
That's the key.
Okay. If you were to lose everything here, your business, your land, all of it, who are you down deep?
It's kind of an everybody and a nobody thing, right? I have had experiences with things like ayahuasca and breath work at the same time while I was under the stars in the mountains of Costa Rica in the jungle. And I experienced myself in complete oneness with the universe. I was literally breathing as the universe. So that's who I am, and that's who we all are.
Wow. Not the answer I thought I was going to get, but that was a good one.
Yeah.
I want to go to Costa Rica and do that. Can we do that anywhere?
Right? Yes. It's in us. It is us.
Yeah.
I use that tool to help me experience it, but the transference of knowledge and awareness that came from that experience was epic, and it transformed my life. Right? You don't need ayahuasca to do this. Meditation and breath work absolutely is the gateway, right? But that helped. It was like a catalyst for change.
Helped you get there.
Yeah.
Huh.
I like it.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my favorite question to ask people to cap things off, Jim. For the next generation watching at home, what is the biggest piece of life advice that you could give to the younger generation watching?
Sit quietly without any distractions. The ultimate toxin is willingly giving our attention to the little black box, right? This apple with a bite out of it, right? The first Apple computers or Apple phones were sold for $666.66, right? That's not an accident. This system in the fiction is intent on sucking our attention and controlling our energy by controlling our attention. So I can't remember who said it, but somebody said all of man's problems originate from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone, right? So the number one thing is sit quietly, grounded with nature, alone, and just feel, right? The feelings are the gateway to the awareness, right? So feel, like, and Tesla said this as well. He said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, well, he said this was a psyop, or he goofed up. Think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, but that's not the truth. If you want to experience the secrets of the universe, of God, then feel the energy and the frequency and the vibration. And then set intentions. And when you set intentions and listen and feel,
Wow. I hope you guys took notes at home watching that.
I
So,
hope everyone takes that piece of advice right there.
yeah.
A lot will still blow it off, though. It's just how the world is.
yep.
Yeah. This was awesome, Jim. Thanks you
Yeah,
so much for
really
coming
appreciate
on. We
it.
greatly
guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you guys. It's been
Yeah.
a pleasure.
Awesome.
And thank you both for helping out. Awesome sauce.
If you enjoyed Jim's episode, we've got more phenomenal Cold Tub Talks episodes that you can check out right here on our channel.